It was a normal day for Ethan Caldwell, a self-made millionaire with everything he could ever want, except for his missing daughter, Emily. She had vanished without a trace 3 years ago, leaving behind only memories and a small silver pendant that he had given her on her 16th birthday. The same pendant he now saw on a bank clerk's neck. Ethan stood frozen in shock, his mind reeling. How could the pendant be here, in this ordinary bank, on the neck of someone he didn't know? Was it possible? Could this be the clue he had been desperately searching for? His heart pounded as he prepared to confront the woman, unaware that this encounter would unravel a chain of events darker and more complex than anything he had imagined. Title: A millionaire went to the bank and saw the clerk wearing the pendant he had given to his daughter before she disappeared. Ethan Caldwell had always been a man of ambition. Raised in poverty, he had worked tirelessly to build his empire from scratch. By the time he was 30, he had amassed a fortune, becoming one of the wealthiest men in the city. But his greatest treasure was his daughter, Emily. His wife, Helen, had passed away when Emily was just a child, leaving him to raise her alone. Emily had been his world, a bright, artistic soul with a smile that lit up even the darkest rooms. 3 years ago, Emily had disappeared. It was a day that Ethan would never forget. She had gone out with friends one evening, and by morning, she was gone. No one knew where she had gone or why. The police had launched a massive investigation, but after months of searching, they had come up empty-handed. The only clue had been the pendant Ethan had given her, a delicate silver chain with a sapphire stone in the center. It had been a symbol of their bond, a reminder that no matter where she went, she would always be connected to him. Ethan had searched everywhere for his daughter. He had hired private investigators, offered rewards, and even gone to the media, but nothing had worked. After 3 years of torment, he had begun to lose hope. His work had consumed him, and his relationships had crumbled, but he never gave up on finding her. That pendant had been his last connection to Emily, and seeing it again filled him with both hope and dread. The moment Ethan saw the pendant on the clerk's neck, something snapped inside him. He walked over to her, his voice tight with barely concealed emotion. "Excuse me," he said, his eyes locked on the pendant. "Where did you get that necklace?" The clerk, a young woman with dark hair tied in a neat ponytail, looked up at him with a puzzled expression. "Oh, this?" she asked, touching the pendant lightly. "It was a gift." "A gift?" Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. "Who gave it to you?" The woman hesitated, sensing the intensity in his tone. "It was, from someone close." "Why do you ask?" Ethan's heart raced. "That pendant belonged to my daughter. She disappeared 3 years ago, and this was the last thing I gave her." The woman's face paled, and she took a step back. I'm sorry, but there must be some mistake. I've had this necklace for a while now." Ethan wasn't convinced. "Please, you don't understand. This is my daughter's pendant." "Where did you get it?" Tension filled the air as the clerk glanced around nervously. "I told you, it was a gift. I don't know anything about your daughter." Ethan clenched his fists, his mind racing with possibilities. Could this woman be involved in Emily's disappearance? Or was she just another victim in a larger, more sinister plot? "Please," Ethan said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "I need to know where you got that pendant. My daughter's life might depend on it." The clerk hesitated for a long moment before finally speaking. I got it from a man. I don't know his name, but he gave it to me a few months ago. Ethan's heart sank. A man. Who could this be? And why would he have Emily's pendant? His mind swirled with questions, but before he could ask more, the clerk added, he said it was special, that it had belonged to someone he loved. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Could this man have been the one who took Emily? Was he somehow connected to her disappearance? The thought chilled him to the bone. Can you describe this man? Ethan asked urgently. The clerk frowned, thinking. He was tall, with dark hair and a scar on his cheek. I remember thinking he seemed off, like he was hiding something. A cold chill ran down Ethan's spine. A man with a scar. That detail triggered something deep in his memory, but he couldn't quite place it. Do you remember anything else? He pressed. The clerk shook her head. I'm sorry, that's all I know. Ethan left the bank feeling more conflicted than ever. The pendant was a lead, but it was also a dead end. He didn't know who the man with the scar was, or what his connection to Emily might be. But he knew one thing, he wasn't going to stop until he found out. Over the next few weeks, Ethan became consumed with tracking down the mysterious man. He hired a new team of private investigators, combed through old police reports, and followed every lead, no matter how small. His search led him to a seedy part of town, where whispers of a shadowy figure known only as the Collector began to surface. The Collector was infamous for dealing in rare and valuable items, especially those with personal significance. Rumor had it that he had a network of informants and connections in the criminal underworld, and that he was capable of finding, or making disappear, anything or anyone. Ethan's gut told him that the Collector was somehow involved in Emily's disappearance, but getting close to him would be dangerous. Ethan's investigation finally led him to an underground auction, where stolen goods and rare artifacts were sold to the highest bidder. In a dimly lit room filled with shadows and secrets, he saw him there, a tall man with dark hair and a scar running down his cheek. The man was overseeing the auction, his cold eyes scanning the room with a predator's gaze. Ethan's heart pounded as he approached the man, his fists clenched. You, he said, his voice low and filled with barely controlled rage. You have something that belongs to me. The man turned slowly, a smirk playing at the corners of his lips. Do I? Ethan took a step closer, his voice trembling with emotion. My daughter. You took her. Where is she? The man's smile faded, replaced by a look of cold indifference. I don't know what you're talking about. Ethan grabbed the man by the collar, his fury boiling over. Don't lie to me. You gave that pendant to the bank clerk. That's my daughter's pendant. Where is she? The room went silent as the two men faced off, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. The man with the scar didn't flinch, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous light. You think you're the first desperate father to come looking for answers, he sneered. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Before Ethan could react, the man pulled a knife from his coat and lunged at him. The two men struggled, their bodies colliding in a violent dance of desperation and fury. Ethan managed to knock the knife from the man's hand, but in the chaos, the man broke free and disappeared into the crowd. Ethan stood panting, his mind racing. He had come so close, but the answers slipped through his fingers once again. Days later, Ethan received an anonymous tip. It led him to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. His heart raced as he entered the dark, decaying building, his footsteps echoing off the walls. In the corner of the room, he saw a small figure huddled on the floor, Emily. She was alive, but barely. Weak and frail, her eyes filled with tears as she looked up at her father. Ethan rushed to her side, wrapping his arms around her in a desperate embrace. "I'm so sorry, Dad," Emily whispered, her voice shaking. "I never wanted to hurt you." Ethan held her tightly, his heart breaking for all the years they had lost. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now." But as they made their way out of the warehouse, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. Emily's disappearance had been part of something much larger, something far more dangerous than he had realized. The man with the scar was still out there, and Ethan knew that as long as he was, neither of them would truly be safe. The pendant, once a symbol of love and connection, had become a key to a dark and twisted world, a world that Ethan would have to confront if he ever wanted to protect his daughter from the shadows that still loomed. The end.